Hello and welcome to this month's Music Community Session. I'm Ben Guyver, Senior Creative Relations with Dolby Laboratories on the Music Partnerships team based in Los Angeles. And in this month's session, we have a special group of Dolby's music experts joining me to share the amazing work they do in support of the creative community and to answer all of your questions about everything Dolby Atmos music related. So we will have Dolby's Head of Music Partnerships, Christine Thomas, Director of Music Partnerships, Jason Banks, Senior Industry Relations Manager, Tyrone Davis Jr., Senior Industry Relations Manager, Aaron Venables, and Senior Manager of Audio Content Solutions, Jordan Glasgow, joining Music Industry Relations Specialist, Emma Brooks, all here to answer your questions about the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem, everything from tools to devices, services, delivery specs, QC, room calibration, labels, events, and more. So please submit your questions in the go-to menu here, and we will answer them all live here very shortly. A few quick items, and then we'll jump into that discussion. On the last music community sessions, I mentioned that we were just back from the Dolby House at South by Southwest, where we hosted over 32,000 attendees throughout the week, who all came through to experience a whole floor of installations highlighting Dolby Atmos and vision innovations, including across music, movies, streaming, gaming, sports, and podcasts. The Dolby House hosted over 20 free panels, events, industry, and creator meetups throughout the week. And we've just dropped all the panel discussion content, which was programmed by Dolby Institute, on our YouTube channel. So you can go check all that out now. The music partnerships team and my colleagues, we were all involved with several discussions at South by Southwest. Christine Thomas led a couple of great discussions on harnessing Dolby technologies and creative empowerment with titles Jason Campana and Republic's Ken Duro-Ifil. And Aaron Venables joined a panel with our friends at the Digilog, sharing music resources and updates for creatives. I had a few minutes to sit down with Atlanta artist and producer Suave the day after he performed as part of Vibe and Def Jam's Next to Now showcase to talk about his newest album, Almitha's Son, which is streaming now in Dolby Atmos on enabled music services. Also, Dolby Institute hosted their Dolby Atmos Music Artist Accelerator program, which offers music creatives a deep dive into the world of Dolby Atmos music creation. They all received hands-on education and mentorship from Dolby Atmos engineers like Nick Reeves and Matt Lang, all in an effort to create original music in Dolby Atmos and help jumpstart their careers as Dolby Atmos music creators. So you can check out the new video at Dolby Institute highlighting the program, which features some of the up-and-coming artists and producers who are part of the Miami version of the Accelerator. And there's also a new page at dolby.com/institute with a great overview of the Artist Accelerator program and all of the amazing work that Dolby Institute does to empower the next generation of creatives. Also at dolby.com/institute is where you'll find a ton of resources, the music creation tutorial videos taking you all the way from setup to delivery, studio setup and room calibration tutorials, beginner and advanced tutorial videos in Spanish with mix engineer Luis Del Toro, plus the Dolby Atmos music curriculum and self-guided training is available there in 5 languages as well. That's also where you'll find the Dolby knowledge base, user forums, FAQs connected with professional.dolby.com, and your studio resources are available there as well. That's where we have our dedicated studio teams around the world ready to help you out, whether you're a studio in the early stages of enablement and looking for guidance, or as a studio in any stage really of content creation. We have a ton of resources and best practices for you there, including our music studios onboarding form at professional.dolby.com. Finally, be sure to check out a new Hear from the Masters video featuring Atlanta mix engineer KY Engineering, who we had on a music community sessions a few months ago. He shares some of his wisdom for mixing hip hop in Dolby Atmos, including some of the work he's done for artists like 2 Chainz and Suave. Shout out to Soul Asylum Studios in Atlanta for hosting that along with us. And in last month's music community session, we were joined by Dolby's Finn Barnes and Jordan Glasgow, along with mix engineer John Kersey, for a demonstration of the new Dolby Atmos Renderer, which of course is a new product that brings together Dolby's industry-leading audio production tools, the Dolby Atmos Production Suite and the Dolby Atmos Mastering Suite, and combines them into an all-in-one solution for audio professionals and creators. So be sure to check out that session for a deep dive into the renderer. You can also grab a 90-day free trial at professional.dolby.com. That's where you can also grab a 90-day trial of the Dolby Atmos album assembler. Okay, so a huge shout out to everyone we saw at NAMM in Anaheim. We did some talks with our friends at Apogee, Sennheiser Neumann, Focal, and engineers, to name a few. And there was just a ton of Dolby Atmos music going on throughout the show. So great to see everyone. We answered a lot of questions and heard some things that we thought people might need a little bit of clarity on. So with that, we're going to jump into our live conversation and Q&A. Please add your questions here in the go-to menu.
All right, I'd like to invite our guests to turn their cameras on and join me, please. And I have to say that it is very exciting to have some of my esteemed colleagues here today joining me, who all touch Dolby Atmos music and engage with you in the community every day in so many ways. And to everybody attending this session, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's been so great to see everyone at these events out in the world. And we've been so active, not only at NAMM, but at CES and South by. And it's always great working so closely with everybody on a day-to-day basis, but it's really important that we take the opportunity to, not just speak at industry events and on panels and whatnot, but to have an interactive and open dialogue with everybody in the community. It's actually one of the main goals of the community sessions, to bring people together and have an open forum for ideas and hit the hot topics, the tough questions, and all of that. So that's what we'll be doing here today. So thank you so much to everyone who's pre-submitted questions. There have been some really great ones that have come in. And if you haven't yet, please enter your questions into the question menu here in GoTo. And remember, if we don't get to your questions today, you always have access to us at musicrelations@dolby.com. So you can always hit us up there. And we're going to schedule these sessions with my colleagues and other people from around Dolby on a more regular basis to help arm you with information and make sure that you've got what you need out there in the world. Also wanted to quickly mention, we send out a survey following each of these sessions, which we would love to get your feedback on. What did you like? What would you like to see more of? Maybe what would you like to see less of? Who would you like to see featured as guests? So please keep an eye out for that. Okay, we'll start with introductions and then a Dolby Atmos music ecosystem overview, followed by your questions. So I'd like to invite the panelists to introduce themselves, please. And I'm sure that many viewers know your names and faces, but if you could just share your titles and a little bit about yourselves and your role at Dolby. We'll start with Christine Thomas.
Hi, thanks so much, Ben. We are so excited to be here with all of you today. I do want to just acknowledge, yes, you are muted on entry. Sorry for that. I'm Christine Thomas. I lead music partnerships for Dolby. For us, that is technical enablement of the music industry. So everyone here and a significant team beyond who is here with you today, we work with labels and music streaming services. We work with studios, we work with producers and mixers, and hopefully are connected or will be connected shortly with all of you who are joining us here today. It's our great pleasure, and we love engaging with the community. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine. Jason.
Thanks, Ben and Christine. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Banks. I'm the Director of Music Partnerships. I'm responsible for business development, ecosystem health for the music team. In my role, I have a few different focus areas. I work closely with distributors and DSPs to ensure that they have the tools and the knowledge to actually distribute Dolby Atmos technology. So wide range of topics there around encoding, application development, and just workflows. I'm also the glue between internal Dolby engineering teams and our key partners out in the market, identifying gaps and ways to close the gaps in the ecosystem to make sure everybody's having the optimal experience.
Awesome, thanks. And let it be known he's making a rare on-camera appearance here, folks. So hit him while we got him. Aaron.
We do call him Hitchcock, yeah.
Hi, I'm Erin Venables, Senior Industry Relations Manager. I'm across what you'd kind of call content pipeline. So I work really closely with mix engineer studios, labels, streaming service partners. I connect a lot of dots. I help get things unstuck. I'm a resource for the industry. And I also work with our marketing teams in identifying promotional opportunities for releases, hosting events and activations, and yeah, so excited.
Thank you. And there's a pretty good chance that everybody viewing this has less than 2 degrees of separation between anything that Erin is involved in. So I'm sure many of you know her name and her face. So really excited to have her. Jordan.
Hi, everybody. Jordan Glasgow. I lead the product management team for our content creation and distribution tools, mainly for Dolby Atmos, but also a little bit of Dolby Vision as well.
Thank you. And Jordan actually making his third appearance on the music community session. So well done, sir. And Emma.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. My name is Emma Brooks. I support music studio enablement efforts for the music partnerships team. So working with commercial studios, mixers, mastering engineers, the creative community, and making sure we're all aligned on best practices for design and implementation.
Yep, and chances are if you've got a studio out there in the world, Emma's probably seen your Dart diagram and knows a thing or two about it. So awesome to have her as well. So Christine, if we could talk a little bit about kind of the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem. I mean, Dolby's well represented throughout the music ecosystem, right? And things progress very quickly in this world. And that generates a lot of excitement and a lot of opportunity to share information. And I think in particular, there's some pieces that maybe we don't talk about on these sessions each time, kind of the breadth of the device footprint or the distribution network, the streaming services, live events, cars. So maybe if you could share a little bit about kind of the ecosystem and how those pieces fit together from the creative side, and then how that translates over to the consumer experience as well, that'd be great.
Thanks, Ben. It's my pleasure. And before I start, just to acknowledge Tyrone Davis is meant to join us today as well. He was busy vacationing in Costa Rica, so we are sorry to miss him today, but he is also an incredible member of our team. We're not completely represented here on the team today, but just some key folks who were able to join us, and we'll be making sure that you spend some time with Tyrone in the future. So, so shout out to Ty.
Yes,
we appreciate him. You know, it's interesting because I know that many of you have heard me do a version of this. So I will say that, yes, if you spend some time with us, some of it might be redundant, but the wonderful thing about our ecosystem is that it's also increasing and expanding and deepening on a pretty constant tick. So bear with me a minute, because maybe there's a nugget or 5 in there that is an update that would be useful to you. Also, we did think about sharing slides with you, but you know, we don't really do that with you guys. So if you need any resources to refer to in the future, though, please hit us up. We're really happy to share those. So just at a high level, I'll make a point of also acknowledging some things that I've heard and some feedback recently and try to draw those connections. So yes, Dolby Atmos began in movie theaters, and it's wonderful, and we're so proud of it, and that's over a decade ago. And it moved on to television, gaming, and music. And you know, I always feel like I'm missing a piece of the ecosystem. So you'll say, "What about this? What about this?" So Ben will jump in and say if I miss something. But what's exciting is that, yes, we're very well established in the movie theater arena, and so proud of that, over 80 OTT services and television, and that's wonderful. So you can consume those experiences on laptops and desktops and tablets and your phone and your television and your gaming device, as a matter of fact. But also, when we launched with music, I would say that that's where the world really cracked open from the perspective of understanding all the ways that these experiences could be consumed. You know, certainly let's say for us, and this group focuses primarily in that arena, but we do take a portfolio approach. So if we're engaged with you, you'll hear us talking about all of these components, all of the ways in which music touches our lives. Those are all of the ways in which your creation can enjoy an experience opportunity. And we're thinking about that every day. So today, when we say that Atmos is available on over 2 billion devices, we are talking about the mobile device. We are talking about the tablet, the phone, again, the Mac, the PC, the gaming device, the television. We are talking about the car. And that is really absolutely thrilling, because now we're talking about really having that Dolby Atmos music experience throughout our day, throughout our lives, throughout our moods, throughout our experiences, throughout our, right, not only for enjoyment, but really for relaxation and for excitement, and it's thrilling. And of course, now with Dolby Live in Las Vegas, for an example, you know, you can have that true end-to-end experience. So that's all wonderful. When we talk about the, just to reset a little bit from what's important to think about when we talk about how Dolby operates, we think very carefully about the creative from the very beginning. We like to remind everyone that we were founded by just an absolutely genius scientist and engineer who solved the fundamental problems of experiences. And yes, that is our foundation, but was also core to that was he was an audiophile. He loved classical music and he loved the creative, and he believed in not just solving the problem after it was, if you will, in the playback environment, but from creation. So we build from creation with the creators. And what Jordan and his team do, which is I'm in awe of on a daily basis, is they work with all of you. They genuinely want to hear from all of you. And so many of you are integral to the experience that is currently available, not only in the playback environment, but in the creation process, in the tools themselves. Where is that button, and is it green, and is it in the right place? Because I need to be able to see it. I need to be able to move it. Is it panning properly? What is the sound of the room that I'm working in, etc.? All of these components and much, much more, much, much deeper than what I'm referring to now are the pieces that Jordan craves feedback on from all of you. So it's important, it's imperative to us that we're not developing alone, if you will, in a lab by ourselves. We're developing with you, factoring your feedback directly in, so that it really does serve you in your dream, whatever it is that you're imagining. And that's very important, certainly, to everyone here and to Dolby at large. But it's also important to remember that Dolby is founded, if you will, is I would say populated by a community of musicians. Many of our employees are musicians. We're even quite relevant to in terms of, you can Google them, musicians, and are still playing music today. And so often you will see that when you work with us. And so it's important to our DNA as well, because many of our community are creators also. So yes, we're consumable on over 2 billion devices for Dolby Atmos music alone. Yes, we're in over 160 countries. We're on 15 music streaming services today and growing. We are in there's 9 vehicles already announced or on the road. And when I say vehicles, I mean the company, right? Most often they've already announced expansion across their SKUs, and certainly most of them are global. So it's thrilling then to know that consumers are able to experience this now in many formats. The other thing about it is that it's in all genres, and it's being created truly globally. So this is not a US-centric creation opportunity. This is something that is happening extensively across Africa, in India, in China, in Japan, in Korea, across South America, in Australia and New Zealand. So it's very exciting for us. And as you can tell, it's certainly our passion. And just to also maybe give us all a few reminders, this expansion is tremendous, and it's down to all of you. We launched Dolby Atmos Music first at the end of 2019. It was actually first launched on Amazon in November and on Tidal in December of the same year. So that's obviously incredible in that short time frame. And then, with the launch of Apple Music, it really, I think, removed the why Dolby Atmos from the discussion. And now there are over 800 music studios actively creating in Dolby Atmos every day. And again, that is quite a global footprint. And that's, again, down to all of you. In the meantime, what that's done for us is impressed a requirement for us to become more agile in terms of how we work with our DAW partners to, deepen native integration, which again, Jordan's team does beautifully every day. And yes, there's more to do. There's always more to do, and we're working hard, and we want that feedback. And also to I would say expand opportunities for you to have more agile solutions for studios. So that's something Emma and certainly the expanded regional teams are working on. Please remember there's an extensive regional environment at Dolby who is also engaged in supporting you in your local region. So this is, again, absolutely a global effort that we're making here together with you. And they're thinking about those agile solutions, because we understand that a music studio is going to struggle to meet, I'm going to put in air quotes, spec, right? Spec is tough because it implies that it's fixed. So what we have with Dolby Atmos Music is best practices. And then what we have are agile solutions that will allow you to monitor, even if you're dealing with an extremely limited environment or funding, and then also check your mix in a studio environment. And we try to encourage these things. So what we've done to try to communicate with the community to date is certainly build documentation. That's what we should do. So we write it down and we publish it, and it needs to be updated all of the time with your learnings factored in, with our experiences factored in, with the development of market and what's happening with our partners factored in, because you don't need to come to Dolby to enable your music studio or even to acquire the tools, right? You can get those from the market. It's real, it's in market, it's available through resellers and integrators. It's available through the tools providers. So we work very hard to try to make that easier, but again, we want your feedback. And then the other thing that we do is we work with the Dolby Institute, which is a faction of Dolby that is focused on educating not only early career, let's say creators, mixers, producers, etc., but also as you progress through your process. So there's also professional.dolby.com that we're going to refer to quite a lot here, just to try to remind everyone that there is a resource. But again, you can come to us if you're struggling to navigate it. Okay, I'm going to take a little pause here and just check in with Ben. What did I miss?
That was great. No, you did fantastic. Thank you. And I think, when you talk about 15 plus worldwide services and 9 automobiles and 800 plus studios around the world, there are more coming that we don't know about, or people that are interested, potential partners that we may not even know about yet. So if people on this session, attendees and viewers, have connections and need our support somewhere, please reach out to us at musicrelations@dolby.com so we can help connect the dots in many cases and help move those conversations forward if we're needed. So that's what we do, right? We're here in support, and we know that you all have questions and connections and things that you'd like to see move forward too. So we're happy to join in those efforts. Would anybody else like to add anything to the ecosystem overview before we go on to questions? Okay. All right. Well, again, so many great questions were pre-submitted. A few have come in that are related to some of the things that we're going to answer here. So where I'm able to, I'll acknowledge the people that have asked those questions before we answer the next one that addresses that one. So we're going to start off with some of the FAQs from NAMM. So this one is about deliverables, and I'm going to go to Aaron for this one. The question is, what is the deliverable requirement to streaming services, and what is the file size? I think a lot of people know this, but it was a frequently asked question, and we just wanted to address it here amongst the group.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will be delivering an ADM B-Wave, and that can range anywhere from 600 megabytes to like 6 gigs, just depending on what's in it. And Ben will throw a link in the chat to professional.dolby.com, and that has some music specs, delivery specifications for you that can further, inform you on that.
Awesome. Yeah, and at professional.dolby.com, there's a PDF under distribution and deliverables that outlines the specs. I will pop the link into the chat. You can also just search in the search field on the professional site as well. Okay, next question for Jason. What happens if a Dolby Atmos mix is streamed through a 2-speaker setup? I think you're on mute, sir.
Good catch. Didn't want the dog barking in the background. When you stream to a 2-speaker setup, or any setup in particular, I think it's important to remember that Dolby Atmos is a series of technologies that all work together. So it starts in the studio with the Atmos toolset to actually create the master file, and then it goes through a series of steps with the DSP in terms of encoding, and ultimately on the device to be decoded and played back. Virtualized and rendered, if you will, when it's played back. So you actually have this virtualized rendered Atmos experience when you hear it. Dolby works closely with all of our OEM hardware partners to tune and make sure that the Atmos implementation is the best it can possibly be. Just like with stereo, there are limitations to your experience in terms of what you'll experience based on the quality of that hardware. But the promise of Dolby Atmos is that you will have a proper Dolby Atmos experience no matter what the speaker setup is at the end of the day. It could be your cell phone with the single speaker all the way up to a 916 system. But Atmos will deliver based on the actual endpoint itself.
Awesome, thank you. All right, for Emma here, why is it important that I use the Dolby Music curve?
Very good question. So the Dolby Atmos music curve was discovered rather than designed or developed by Dolby. So empirical testing was performed across various music mixes across numerous studios utilizing the same target curve response, and then validated on consumer playback devices to ensure accurate translation across the entire Dolby Atmos music ecosystem. So you can find information about the music curve and our best practices for music rooms document, including the shape, or on professional.dolby.com. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to music studios at dolby.com for help. But the short of it is, it's about translation across the entire music system, all of those devices and places that Christine mentioned.
Thanks, Emma. And I just want to add a note to that too. You know, there is always an evolution, as I mentioned to you. And the reason I said it a few times is I really want everyone to put that, you know, take that in and help us, if you will, because also we learn, right? And we did learn some time back that the curve was a little too aggressive. So that has also been amended just a little bit. And it's possible that we'll continue to learn more things about that. What I can tell you is that when we did lack consistency between the playback environments, there was a significant issue with translation, and we still find that today. So that's something that was discovered, to Emma's point, in 2017 originally, and we are reminded on a pretty constant basis. And when that adjustment is made, the music does in fact translate beautifully. And we see it in cars, we see it on sound bars, we see it across the playback environment. So that's the essence of it, and we welcome feedback, certainly. It's also important to know that Dolby and Dolby's partners, we capture the measurement when we enter the room, and then we capture after we're done tuning. So there is a record there by which to compare what effect took place, and certainly we can help, you know, advise or provide that visibility as well if you have any questions.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, for Jordan, what is spatial coding emulation in the renderer, and should I ever disable it? And then we'll address our friend Matt Boudreau's question as a follow-up to this.
Yes, lots to say about spatial coding. Buckle up. So spatial coding is the process of clustering nearby objects together. So when you're mixing in Atmos, you have up to 128 channels. And for delivery over a streaming service, we encode to a codec like Dolby Digital Plus JOC. And so we cluster so that we can deliver the experience over the internet. So having spatial coding on while you're mixing will give you an accurate picture of what your mix is going to sound like when it hits a consumer device. And it should always be on when you're measuring loudness, because that affects the loudness value. You can totally turn it off earlier on in the mix process if you're doing precision EQ work or other precision work. That's fine. Just make sure to turn it back on towards the end of the mix so that you can hear what it's going to sound like, make any tweaks if you need to, and get an accurate loudness measurement. In terms of number of elements, in the renderer, there's a drop-down menu that lets you choose 12, 14, or 16. The reason we added that is because different Dolby codecs support different number of elements. For example, True HD can use 12 elements. 16 is the number of elements used by DD plus Jock, which is the codec streamed on Apple Music. There's been a little bit of confusion because some of our other tools, like the album assembler, are currently measured with 14 elements. And you can get slightly different loudness readings if you measure differently with those different settings. So what we're going to be doing in the next version of the album assembler that's coming very soon, that will switch to 16 elements. And that way, if you use 16 in the renderer, you can align everything with what the services will measure with when they receive the content. So everybody can be using 16 elements and have accuracy throughout the system. Let's see. I think that was everything we wanted to say about spatial coding, but please chime in the chat if I missed anything.
Great, thank you. And Matt, hope that addresses your question. And if there are any follow-ups, yes, please add them to the chat or to the questions tab, please. Jordan, one more for you here while we've got you. Can I on the album assembler? Can I crossfade in the album assembler? What should my binaural settings be for gapless album playback?
Yeah, good question. So we don't support crossfades in the album assembler yet, just fade in and fade out. So crossfades can be done in a DAW, and you want to make sure that you align tracks with similar VRM values. So having objects with near on the same track definitely makes things much easier when crossfading. It's something that we're looking at for adding in the album assembler in the future. It's definitely a big chunk of work, so it won't be immediately, but definitely something we're considering.
Okay, thank you. Christine, one for you. What's Dolby's role in connecting with A&R teams at labels?
Yeah, thanks. We are not an A&R team. That is not our goal. We are not pursuing artists or trying to do that job. We are partnering with A&R teams in a few ways. One, certainly to equip them with our resources, our education, at time to certainly our marketing resources, as well as to leverage some of our private venues from time to time to amplify releases, provide influencer opportunities or press opportunities, etc. So that's kind of the easy answer, but really it's important that we, again, I go back to the educational piece. We're working to educate everyone in the environment, right? It's certainly it's creatives, it's A&R teams, it's executive teams, whether they're an A&R across the BD arena or licensing arena. The goal is that all of us are on the same page, and that then people can make informed decisions, and they're empowered with the opportunity that this brings from a creative perspective, but also ultimately from a business perspective, so that you can all benefit from this on a financial level as well. We want Dolby Atmos music to be good for everyone is the goal. So it's really to empower everyone with the ecosystem opportunity as well, right? So I say that about the portfolio approach or the ecosystem. And what I mean is, if you create a new mix, you imagine or you reimagine in Dolby Atmos, right? And now where does that music go? Yes, ideally it streams, but also ideally, you know, it may be a soundtrack, it may be a part of a music video, it may be something that is used in a game, and we don't even fully appreciate what that complete evolution will be as we continue to develop in gaming and AR and VR and XR and all the Rs. And you know, it can also be experienced, of course, in a theater environment, and people are going back to the theater and loving the music and venue experience, whether it's got a picture or whether they're sitting in the dark. And then there are the promotional opportunities where oftentimes our partners are looking for opportunities to work with an artist or a label specifically, or even a creative specifically, to further their advancement of their technology or the amplification of their campaigns. So these are the things that we try to share with A&R teams. It's really the opportunity as well as the creative process. And sometimes, yes, I had the pleasure to meet Lee. That's absolutely true.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep you on the spot here for a second, CT, and sending you a hard one here. So why is the loudness spec -18 LKFS? Can you talk a little bit about how that was, how we arrived there with our partners?
Thank you. Yeah. So you're probably wondering, why does Ben throw that question to me? Because I don't know that you guys really want a technical answer, actually. I'm just going to challenge you on that. If you want a technical answer, we can definitely get deep with you on it. But I do want to share with you how we got there and why and what's happening. First of all, I learned this many years ago when I started working with Dolby Atmos Music and all of you, that this is not a new problem specific to Dolby Atmos. Actually, this has been a long time industry topic. But with regard to Dolby Atmos, yes, I understand that it can sound quieter. What we did was we actually factored in tens of thousands of tracks, and we worked very closely with labels and with a number of creatives and with streaming partners, and we also evaluated what happens throughout the ecosystem, so again on the playback device as well. And the best we could do, the best number we could choose that would give people a target, which ultimately you need a target, right? You need a target number, you need to target best practices document, you need a target delivery spec, you need a target, And so that's where it came from. It was data analysis, true data analysis, and then critical listening. And to the best of our ability, we defined that -18 average peak, and that was with services and evaluating the loudness experience on their services, understanding what happens when it reaches a certain level and then is let's say adjusted for on their service, and that varies greatly if you're not familiar. So again, we're really happy to get further into this, but it was done based on data. I'm a pretty data-driven person, if you guys know me, and we did take that approach. And then again, it's critical listening. So yes, it continues to be a hot topic, and we do not think that these are ever in the bag. And there is an evolution that's also taking place with some of the services. Apple in particular is very, very conscious of this topic. And so stay tuned and work with us as we continue to evolve together, but that's where it came from.
Awesome, thank you. Jordan, over to you. So mastering for Dolby Atmos. Do I need a mastering engineer for my Dolby Atmos mix?
Good question. I would definitely hire a mastering engineer if I was doing a mix. Yeah, just like stereo, mastering engineers are recommended for a variety of reasons, to get another pair of ears on it, and to make sure your mix is consistent and meeting all the specs for delivery. You know, with Atmos, you're working with up to 128 channels and positional metadata and program level metadata. So there's a lot more things to keep track of. So mastering engineers are definitely recommended for Atmos.
Okay, great. We'll stick with you for a second. Talking about the reference or ways to play back ADMs. Is there a reference player for ADMs other than the renderer, Jordan?
Yeah, besides the renderer, you can play back ADMs in the album assembler, and then also in a variety of DAWs that support Atmos, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Nuendo, etc.
Okay, great. CT, over to you for one, and then we'll answer a few from the chat here in a moment. Can I use automated processes and or upmixing from stereo to Dolby Atmos tracks?
No, the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is not because I say so or Dolby says so. The answer is no because the content owner says so. Dolby Atmos music it's a new piece of art. It's a new creation. It's not just a new file, it's a new piece of work. It's meant to be an original creation, whether that's new music or a piece of iconic seminal music reimagined. It is meant to be a creation. And so I know how hot this topic is right now, and I understand that some might be inspired to be delivering more faster. We hear that quite a lot. It is not ours to decide this. It is the content owners, and the content owner is saying, no, that is not Dolby Atmos, and it is not the intent of what we're doing together in the world with Dolby Atmos. Apple Music is also taking a critical and strong hand on this, and I have to say that personally, because I love what we're doing. I love Dolby Atmos music. It has changed my life, not only professionally but emotionally as a human. It's why I personally come to work every day, and so no.
Lovely, thank you. Jordan, why can't I deliver a 96K file to streaming service?
Yeah, all of the streaming services currently support 48K when it comes to Dolby Atmos, and also all of our codecs for streaming also support 48K only. That said, as you guys have seen, we've recently introduced support for 96K ADMs in the renderer and also in the Atmos conversion tool, and that's soon going to be coming to the album assembler. I think we showed that at NAMM in a little preview. So we're rolling out the ability to mix and master Atmos content at 96K, and that is, you know, ideally so you can do all of your work at the highest sample rate that you want to, and take that all the way through the mastering chain and then archive those files, because maybe down the line we will have codecs that do support that. So it's purely for archival at this point, and then you can convert that content to 48K at the very end before delivering it to your label or streaming service.
Great, thank you. Okay, for Aaron and Emma, how can I get a Dolby Mixer certification, and how do I get on the Dolby Studios listing?
Okay, so we don't have a certification program for mixers. There are kind of different programs in market that you can do, like as we mentioned, there's just Dolby Institute. There's these self-guided curriculums. Engineers has a program where you can learn and get their kind of certification as well as Avid has a program, but we don't have an official certification or list for mixers. And I will hand it over to Emma for the studio list.
So similar to what Aaron mentioned, we don't offer a formal certification program for rooms, but there are 2 lists of studios that have been verified to meet our best practices. So there's a public list on our website at professional.dolby.com. There's also a master list of studios we keep internally and share with label partners and streaming services, etc. So if your studio is enabled, we would love to include you. And if your studio is not yet enabled, we would love to connect with you so that we could advise on best practices and help set you up for success. If you could submit the Music Studio onboarding form and provide as much information as possible, things like speaker models, floor plans, if you have a DART created, what DAW are you using, all of those are helpful things to include. Our team can review and provide guidance on the best practices for design and implementation wherever you are in the process, whether you're just starting to think about it or you already have a system installed.
Awesome, thank you. Over to you, Aaron. So how can I QC my mix?
All right, so there's a few ways to do this. In the render, you can export an MP4 from your ADMB wave and put that onto a thumb drive and test that out on different consumer devices like soundbar or home theater system. You can also drop that onto your Apple device, say, through either AirDrop or sending it to yourself, as long as you're saving it within the Files app. And then you can listen to it on AirPod Pros or AirPod Maxes. There is documentation on this on our website at professional.dolby.com within the knowledge base there. And Jordan, did you want to expand on that in any way?
No, I think that was a great answer. I saw somebody else was asking about combining video with Atmos content. So that's part of that same workflow. You can export the MP4 from the render and you could do it just audio only, or you could combine it with the video file at that step.
Great, thank you. Okay, CT. Why does my mix sound different on Apple Spatial and headphones? And hopefully this also addresses our friend Greg Miner's question as well.
Which one is Greg asking?
Which is, what's the difference between Apple Spatial and Dolby Atmos?
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm happy to answer. So Dolby Atmos is the technology and that you are working in when you are creating Dolby Atmos music. It is the format that you are delivering to the label and to ultimately go to the service provider. It is also the format with your metadata that is being delivered to the consumer. Spatial is a few things. It is a term that has existed for some time, not attached to Dolby Atmos. It speaks to something in the stereo world as well. But in this case, what it is the name of that Apple Music specifically, and now others are using, to describe the immersive experience that they're delivering on their platform. And it does sound different, yes. There are a few things about this. Let's back up. And I'm not spin doctoring this, really. Give me a minute on this, folks. So it's important to remember that many of us like a different sound on a speaker, in a car, on a headphone. Many of you use completely different headphones from your friends. Even those who work very closely together may use totally different brands, because that is the sound that you like. It may be because that's how you grew up and where you come from, and it may be a physical disposition. It may simply be the sound because of the music that you like. But nevertheless, there is a sound that you prefer, and every single device manufacturer does deliver a sound. They have their individual sound. It is how they deliver fidelity. That said, what Apple Music is delivering is absolutely Dolby Atmos with some of Apple's sonic solutions as well. And so what's cool is that they have facilitated the opportunity in Logic to be able to monitor them both. So you can hear what it sounds with Apple's technology as well, and then independently with the Dolby renderer. And I would encourage you to do that. It will give you the transparency I think you're looking for. But the short answer is yes, you will have a different experience on Amazon Music, on Tidal, from what you're experiencing on Apple Music. And also that is consistent with how Apple delivers experiences.
Great, thanks. Jason, over to you. How can I get my music delivered in Dolby Atmos to streaming services?
Sure, absolutely. Today, all three major labels are delivering Dolby Atmos to enable streaming services, as well as the three majors. There's a wealth of independent distributors that are delivering, I'd say probably 20 plus at this point. So all the names you're probably familiar with, The Orchard, DistroKid, TuneCore, Believe, Fuga, ADA, etc. They're all delivering Dolby Atmos today, open to the public. So if you have mixes you need to deliver, those services are all available to you. And just to give you a little background, in most cases, the process of delivering Atmos is the same as stereo. It generally takes the same path. If you're releasing Atmos day and date with the stereo file, it's usually combined into the same packet, if you will, that's delivered with the same metadata and the artwork, et cetera, all travels along that same path. If you are a distributor, a good first step to get you started in the process is to reach out to your current contacts, add an enabled streaming service, be it Amazon, a Tidal, an Apple, etc., and ask them for their delivery specs. And if you need more help, we're also here to help you in terms of what's needed in terms of ingest, file type, how to verify files. You can always reach out to us for help.
Awesome, thank you. CT, let's go back to you. A couple of questions have come in as follow-ups to the upmixing question. There's one, upmixing stereo mixes to Dolby Atmos is a no. How come there are so many upmix tracks on streaming services? Is there a QC function to prevent that? And anything else you'd like to expand upon on that one?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, I see several questions in the chat on this, and I appreciate you trusting to ask these questions. Yes, there is tremendous amount of work going into the QC process. It's not mine to specify in detail because it's being done by content owners and also by services. Specifically, I can say that Apple Music is trapping for this, and they're absolutely looking to ensure that there is an authentic Dolby Atmos mix that they're receiving. I would also give a shout out to certainly a number of the content owners, but particularly I have to say that the Universal Music QC effort has been pretty significant from what I hear around the street. And I know that for some folks, they can I'll just say from time to time, get a little frustrated with it, but I would encourage you to support it because it is delivering and it is ensuring the delivery of quality, authentic, original mixes. And again, that really is the goal. It's future-proof your work, folks, right? Consider your creation. Be confident in that this is a piece of technology that is evolving quickly with you and your good input, and with the adoption across services and across content owners. Everyone's learning together. Put the effort into it. Make sure that you take that time with your binaural metadata, because you want to make sure that that mix is going to deliver and translate to every environment, not only on the headphone, not only in your home theater, right, environment, whether that's on a high-end home theater system or the new Sonos device, which is absolutely delicious. I can't say it enough. The Sonos Era 300 is terrific. I mean, I'm collecting them. So I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal, delivering fidelity in a consumer environment in a really compelling way at an affordable price point is very exciting to me personally. And so many of our partners are doing that, but just shout out to Sonos on that latest speaker release. But now in the car as well, so you must check translation, you must create, you must be intentional with your mixes, you must protect your art, right? This is your opportunity to tell your story. This is your painting, your sculpting, right? So make that effort, do that work, and let us know if we can help you to know how to do that, more, if you will, whatever it is that you need in terms of what you dreamt and ensuring that delivery opportunity. Be intentional and thoughtful about all of those components, because the content owners are hoping that you are, and they're checking, but ultimately it's you who has to live with that experience that you've delivered. And again, understanding that I'm going to hear it in my car.
Yeah, Christine, if we could stick with you for a second, it's kind of related to translation, and Chris MM makes a statement and then asks a question. His statement is, hearing a thought, and I think everybody would agree, hearing a thoughtfully mixed Dolby Atmos song in a world-class studio can be a life-changing experience. How might the ecosystem and Dolby's technology evolve to bring more of that studio experience to consumers?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just touched on that a little bit. I'm very excited to say. So we say over 2 billion devices. What does that mean? And maybe everyone thinks that just means phones. And I throw around the words, but there are Samsung sound bars and Sony sound bars, and there's smart speakers, and I mean there's a plethora of sound bars, Sennheiser and Gami, and just a ton of, and at various price points, right? Very, very affordable entry points, as well as those higher end home theater environments, as I mentioned. But as I said too, it's pretty impressive what can happen on a Mac. You can have a really compelling Dolby Atmos music experience on the Mac, for an example. So across tablets, across PCs, across Macs, across, again, televisions and sound bars and smart speakers, and it's growing every day. And I said 9 automotive companies in pretty short order. That's thrilling, right? I mean, that's very, very fast. It started with Lucid, and it's just been a rapid fire adoption, and that's only going to continue on. Obviously, we can't share all that today, but it's very exciting, the growth that we're seeing there in terms of the consumer ecosystem. So it is accessible today to consumers, and it is accessible globally. And again, let us know if you have.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for explaining that again, appreciate it. Jordan, a couple of follow-up questions on the spatial coding emulation. Should I be using spatial coding emulation when using the album assembler in the renderer?
Yeah, I answered this one in the chat, but just to say it real quick, it's the same answer whether you're using the album assembler, which routes audio through the renderer for monitoring, or whether you're just using the renderer. Definitely have spatial coding on towards the end of the process to hear what it's going to sound like on consumer devices and to get an accurate loudness measurement. You're welcome to turn it off earlier in the process, totally up to you.
Great, thanks. One more for you, Jordan. Can we expect features like MP4 export from the renderer and analyzation, EQ limiting from the album assembler to be replicated?
Can we expect those features that are currently in the renderer to be replicated in the album assembler?
In different DAWs.
Oh, in different DAWs. Yeah, good question. We definitely are always working with the DAW partners to improve the experience and get new features to them. So we can't comment on their roadmaps at this time, but we're always working to make that experience better.
Cool, thank you. A question came in from Ira Cord about which Blu-ray players are enabled for Dolby Atmos, and there actually are many device partners enabled for Blu-ray playbacks. A couple are, for example, Sony, Samsung, Pioneer, Philips. Many of them are listed at our professional site, so you can go to professional.dolby.com to see a list of those there as well. Another pre-submitted question here from our friend Sam Downey. Prior to the last Atmos render update, I was glad to help provide feedback into its development as a disabled creator. But what I'm being asked now is, can more accessibility be built into the Atmos renderer app for disabled users who are sight impaired? Jordan.
Yes, we got our first foray into that with the renderer version 5. Some of you have seen the new UI, larger fonts and a bit easier to read and navigate. But definitely we are exploring ways that we can improve accessibility in the renderer and some of our other tools, and look forward to sharing some of those developments with you all in the future.
Awesome, thank you. I had a pre-submitted question from Diego, who was asking if there is material with Dolby subtitles or translation for events, and I wasn't sure if that meant specifically about the community sessions or about other training material that we have out there, but there are Spanish language tutorials at dolby.com/institute. There is the self-paced learning curriculum that's available in Spanish as well. But if you have any further questions or I didn't answer your question, Diego, please email musicrelations@dolby.com. I'll drop that link into the chat again and be happy to follow up with you and answer that. One for you, Aaron. This is from Violet Sensoy. Is there a way to download ADM files of real songs anywhere out there? Is there a way to download ADMs for demonstration purposes?
No. And if you're asking kind of specifically for Dolby, like of commercially released music, no, that's owned by the labels, owned by the content owners. It's not something that we can distribute. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go through some of the recently submitted here. One for you, Jordan, putting you on the spot a little bit, but I've been using the Atmos toolset for a few years as it's evolved. I'm finding that the rate of change in agile development is impacting my workflows. Is there a way for me to stay informed so that I don't get caught out of date with best practices?
Yeah, good question. We have a couple of methods. We do what's new videos for all of our new renderer and album assembler releases, and also post a bunch of information on the knowledge base at professional.dolby.com. There's also these webinars that Ben leads that are a great source of information. And then lastly, I would recommend joining one of the Facebook groups. So if you're a music mixer, there's the Atmos music group on Facebook. That's a great source of information.
Great, thank you. Give this one to you as well, Jordan, and maybe if anybody else wants to comment on it, but is Dolby still working on improving the binaural experience? What is your focus point in improving that, PHRTF and head tracking?
Yeah, we're always interested in improving that. As some of you know, we've had a PHRTF solution out in a public beta for a little while now, and you can download the PHRTF Creator app, which is an app for iOS. I can't remember, somebody correct me if it supports Android or not, but you can scan your head and get your PHRTF and load that file into the renderer, and we'll be bringing that to market as a full product soon. Head tracking is also something that we're looking at. Don't have any comments about roadmap at this time, but that's definitely something we're considering for the future.
Great. Had a question come in about solutions for products like NIRINC for packaging. And if you have specific gear questions or compatibility questions, please email those to musicstudios@dolby.com, and we can make sure that you have the latest information and compatibility information. There was a question that was also submitted about Apollo compatibility, so be happy to answer that as well as a couple of the specific plugin and reverb questions, different manufacturers and compatibility. Happy to answer those at musicrelations@dolby.com or musicstudios@dolby.com. And with that, I would like to thank this amazing panel of guests. We had some more questions, of course, than we could possibly answer. We track all of those. We are happy to get back to you privately. You're also able to email musicrelations@dolby.com with your specific questions. We will do this again. Thank you all so much for all of your input and wisdom and knowledge in engaging with the community here. It's been fun.
And so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.